All right, we should be live, I hope. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Friday. I hope you're all doing well. All right, let's see if everything's coming up on the stream. Looks like it's so far. All right, how's everybody doing on Friday? I hope everybody's fine. So yeah, back on our regular schedule today. Don't know if anybody missed our ad hoc stream on Sunday night, where we added a few more hours because last week we had to cut our stream a little short because of the Q&A. And I did a bunch more on our little dungeon crawlers during the Sunday stream. I haven't done anything since because I kind of am at a point where I don't want to do stuff off of stream because of we're doing the whole movement things and it's kind of fun to follow along with that. Hi Peter, how you going? So yeah, the other thing that I have been experimenting with, which I'm not sure if I am going to keep, is this plugin in Godot that you can download called Ridiculous Coding from John Watson. John Watson is the guy who is doing a game called Gravity Ace, so go check him out. I think he's got a YouTube channel as well where he is showing off everything that he's doing. Really cool little space shooter. I think it's 2D space shooter if I remember correctly. Actually, let's look that up because I don't want to get that wrong. Gravity Ace and mixing up projects. John. Yes, this one. So go check his project out. It's a really cool little shoot 'em up. Well, what do you call this type of game? Not really shoot 'em up. Little space game. So you fly around a little rocket, and what he does really well, which I'm really impressed with, is all the effects. He's really good at adding all sorts of animation effects in there. Hi, Rodzilla, how you going? Hey, Ishmir, how you going? Actually, Ishmir, should I call you by your real name, Jan, or should I call you by your handle? How secret do you want to be? I actually had a really fun experience early in the week where I joined someone's stream, and it took about half an hour before people recognized that my handle was my real name, or the handle that I use instead of my real name, Mux213. For those who are not aware of that. So yeah, it's always fun to get into situations where people sort of going like, "Who are you? Why are you talking about these things?" Oh, now I know who you are. Anyway, the thing is, he made this really cool little plugin in Godot that when you start typing, so what you can see here is that whatever I am typing is being thrown up. Now I think I've put the sound low enough, so let me you guys in the chat let me know if it is too loud and if I should tone it down. The one that I really tone down is that one, because that really gets annoying. Now, this is obviously just a fun little thing. I think it's Jitspo who was using it in his stream that I sort of went like, oh, I want to try that out. I want to see how well that is. The practical side of it is that I kind of like that it outputs the keystrokes that you do. So sometimes it's kind of handy to see what keys combinations you're using when coding to do certain actions. But as fun and animated as this is, it does get in the way. It does get a little overpowering. So I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to keep this. Yeah, I'm not quite sure if it would make me if it would increase my productivity, Slavdev. Yeah, it's the Jan, it's indeed that's the reason why I'm trying it out, because I do like the fact that you can see a little bit more about what I'm actually doing. But I might tweak it somewhere. I'm going to watch Jitspo's stream. Was it Jitspo? Actually, am I mixing up people? I am horrible with these things. Was it Jitspo who did this? Hold on, I'm just gonna go and secretly just go quickly to Twitch. I think it was Jitspo. Yeah, you can all see who I'm subscribed to. Yeah, Jitspo. So I'm not very active on Twitch, by the way, and half those channels I don't even watch. But or they're channels that I was a part of a raid and I added them in and then never watched them again. I don't get Twitch that well. Although I have to say that the whole subscription model on Twitch and the whole monetization model on Twitch seems to be a lot better than on YouTube. Definitely not making any money out of streaming on YouTube, that's for sure. Not that that's my goal, but you know, it's a nice to have. Hey Gillis, how you going? Yeah, when it comes to streaming and when it comes to these sort of things, absolutely. When it comes to obviously now being a Godot dev, even more. Although this week's been weird, and you should know because you've been a part of all the drama that happened this week, and it kind of killed my productivity a little bit. So I've been working this week on the OpenXR plugin, just rounding stuff off and testing stuff. I've been I've been helping Gordon look at some FBX issues because some of the stuff that I'm doing currently in VR involve FBX files, and there's all sorts of weird things in FBX that still need to have some improvements in Godot before FBX is really well supported. Of course, the whole FBX importer was rewritten from scratch by Gordon late last year, and that was added to 3.2.4, and it's a bit of a two-edged sword. On one side, when you look at the previous FBX importer that iFire added, if I'm not mistaken, that was all based on async, and that had all sorts of shortcomings and things that it didn't do, but iFire did spend a whole lot of time sort of working around those issues and solving the core thing, so that the stuff that people use FBX most for, which is importing models with basic animations, that worked really well. But when you're looking at bigger things, when you're looking at importing complete environments, there were all sorts of things, all sorts of scenarios where things didn't work as well. And that's something that Gordon really focused on to really properly support the FBX format. But FBX has got so many weird things in it. At least, well, I haven't looked at it to the extent that I've really looked at the format and really looked at how it works internally. I'm just reacting on the things that I'm seeing happening as a result of files that I'm using and importing that I'm getting from artists. And, you know, things that just fall over and I'm sort of going like, why the hell is it doing this? And then you talk to these guys, you sort of go like, oh, that's because of this, or that's how this, you know, fits together. And we're just finding these differences between how Godot handles things and how FBX is expecting things to be handled. And trying to find solutions for that. So that's a lot of fun, but also a lot of, yeah. All right. Yeah, Blender has got a really, really good plugin for this sort of thing. And that's also why I've been looking for something similar to do on Godot. I know that OBS has a number of plugins, but because I'm using a dual computer setup, I've got my coding computer here, and then I've got my Elgato capturing what's happening on screen, which is then being captured by my other laptop, which is actually streaming, so that I don't get the overhead of actually doing the streaming get in the way of what I'm doing on the normal computer, which for me is very important when I'm doing VR stuff, because when you're doing VR stuff, you tend to really, it tends to be a bit of a resource hog. So if there's also the whole OBS running in the background, they kind of fight. Plus that, you know, with VR, you've got all the funky stuff that happens behind the scenes to capture the display output, send it off to the HMD and all that sort of jazz. So they fight a little bit. So that's why I've got this dual computer setup, and I can't really use all the fun tools that OBS has to offer for that sort of stuff. So having something inside of Godot is interesting, but we'll see whether it's good enough for the purposes. Peter, apply for the Tesla job. Yeah, I knew about that for a little bit longer than most. because I hear things in in the rumor mill. So for me, it wasn't news that Tesla was looking for people who are doing Godot stuff. I don't know the details of it. Obviously, I'm not sure exactly what Tesla does with Godot. I know that they allow games to be played on the console, and there's a really cool video. If you look it up on YouTube, there's a really cool video where someone's actually playing Mario Kart on the display in his Tesla, and he's using his steering wheel to steer the cart. Now, obviously, there are protections in place. You're not able to play the games unless the car is parked and you can't say the engine is off because that doesn't work for electric cars. But you're not allowed to play games while driving for obvious reasons, especially not when your input is actually your steering wheel and your gas pedal. But yeah, the guy's using the steering wheel in his Tesla to do to play Mario Kart, which is absolutely hilarious. So I'm guessing that is sort of the stuff that Tesla is trying to do with Godot. I'm not sure, but it is really cool to see that high-profile companies like Tesla are starting to use Godot, and that kind of also ties into some of the drama that we've been seeing this week. One of the biggest problems that we're having, is just the natural thing, right? Godot, while the engine itself has been on the market for a little bit, it's been open sourced for a couple of years now. When we're looking at high profile stuff, Godot hasn't really hit mainstream attention until until Godot 3 basically came out about 3 years ago. And it takes a long time before people actually make quality games with it and they get released. So there seems to be this lull where there's a lot of game jam stuff coming out because, of course, that's really easy. Well, not easy, but those are the things that are quickly made. There's a lot of stuff, of course, us YouTubers make where we're concentrating on an effect or on a technique or on something. We're not building full games. It takes years to build a really good full game. So a lot of stuff is happening off the radar. And the result is that a lot of people are sort of going like, nobody's taking Godot seriously. It needs all these stuff to become mainstream and also. And in the meanwhile, behind the scenes, you hear things. You hear that Tesla is looking for Godot developers. For me, of course, me being funded by Facebook to work on XR capability. In Godot, that doesn't happen if these bigger companies don't believe that Godot is something, right? And there's others too, but they're at a stage right now where they can't talk about it because there's nothing certain. They're just trying it out. Kefir is another good example actually, where you have they're not a huge studio, but they're not an indie dev either. They're a successful studio with a successful product line that's made them some really good income. Who are right now at a stage where they're looking at using Godot for a big project, not sure whether they will, wanting to support us, therefore giving us a grant. There's a good chance that in a year or two, we're going to see a game that they made. It's also a good chance that in a year or two, they might say like, well, that was nice, but that didn't quite work out. And companies like these, and I'm just naming Kefir because they happen to give us a grant and we had a news blurb because of that. I don't know what exactly they're doing. I have no idea what their plans are. So I'm just using that as an example. I have no idea whether this applies to them or not. But I can imagine that there are players out there that are trying out Godot and that are just not sure enough yet whether they can do enough with it that they want to publicly announce that they're working on a game with Godot because they might change their mind. But where I do like Godot enough to go for it. One actually that really is. They were in the showcase last year, and I forgot the name, but it's such a beautiful game that these guys are working on. It's like a World War II biplane side scroller, which looks absolutely amazing. And they chose Godot, and they're actually an excellent example of a studio that chose Godot because they really liked how Godot worked and really really believed in the product, and therefore also did all their publicity with Godot. And then at some point they got stuck on networking, if I remember correctly. I think it was networking that they so they actually had single player. They had the game working and working really well and looking absolutely amazing. And then when they got into the networking part and they found out that the networking side was not mature enough for their needs, they had to switch. And I can't remember if they switched to Unreal or Unity. But they switched and they ported their game to the other engine, and that allowed them to take that next step, which on one side is a really big shame, where you're sort of going like, oh my God, Godot wasn't good enough. On the other side, I'm going like, well, there was one element that unfortunately Godot wasn't ready for yet. And Godot in a year's time might be there. But at the same time, when I look at what their game looks like and what they were able to pull off with Godot, and now looking at the game in, I think it's Unity that they went for. Don't hold me against it if it's not Unity, but you're looking at the videos that they produce now, and you compare them side by side. There's not a lot of difference, and that shows you how much Godot can do. But yeah, I think there's a lot of that going on, where there's a lot of larger studios that are actually looking at Godot, might even be experimenting with Godot, but are just not ready to make that public. And then suddenly, you get something like Tesla, who puts a job ad in the online and sort of goes like, hey, look at that. The other thing, by the way, which I recommend that everybody do, is check out the proposals. Check out who's making proposals on the proposal side of Godot, because that's the other thing that you're seeing is you're sometimes seeing these guys who are seriously evaluating Godot, doing something with it, putting in proposals to say, well, you know what, this is something that we would like to see added, or something that we're even contemplating working on ourselves, and we just want to put the proposal in to see whether there's community support for us doing this work. Where you can sort of see some names pop up where you're going like, oh, they're using Godot? Interesting. So yeah. Let's see, catching up on chat here. Yeah, Gillis, I think it happens for a lot of us, which really sucks. It's it's a time sink, and actually this is for the 15 people who are watching my stream and who might have even completely had the drama on Twitter go by, or maybe some of you were following it and either getting involved or not. Be aware of the impact that these sort of discussions have. Right now, there's basically been two things. One is about a bit of text that Rados wrote 6 or 7 years ago, or something crazy like that was in the documentation, that every couple of months someone stumbled upon and has a hissy fit, and all of a sudden the whole internet blows up. And I get it. That they're something written 6 or 7 years ago, seen in the light of today, with everything that's going on and everything that's changed in the world. I understand that can be misinterpreted, or it can just be that it has gotten a new meaning, and a meaning it was never intended, but a meaning that it got that has people upset about it. But the amount of distraction that it creates over something that really, whatever choice we make, and this is the big take back from this, whatever choice we make, whether we listen to people who have valid criticism, or whether we decide to stand up for ourselves, if that's the right terminology, and say, no, we're going to keep this, which is what we've done in the past with this particular piece of information, we lose. if we stick up for ourselves in this case and say, well, this was never intended this way, don't have such a hissy fit over it. We have a whole bunch of people saying like, you disregard people's feelings. And if we do react to it and say, well, okay, this is past its prime, it's time to remove this, then we have the other half of the internet suddenly going like, and totally irrelevant of whether that piece of text, whether it was time for it to go or not, it has a huge impact. It has a huge impact on a lot of people who much rather just be busy improving this game engine and working on this game engine, and are now suddenly busy for half a day to a day addressing all this, and especially on Remy, on Akin, who bears the brunt of this as the person who, and this is the really weird thing. We don't really have a PR team. We don't really have anybody who's in charge of PR. Akin does project management, and he's kind of been thrown PR in his lap as a result, and he deals with this shit because that's what it is, and that's again, that is not to disregard people who truly have a problem with things with these, and this is one of the eye openers for me, and a lot of I almost would say us old guys. The world changes, and we are coming from a very male-dominated industry to now an industry that actually embraces a lot of diversity in more and more places. There's still way too many pockets in game development where it still is the old guard and the man-dominated nonsense, which I'm verbally against, especially seeing, friends of mine, female friends of mine who bear the brunt of that negativity that exists in our industry. But it is changing. And now, again, this piece of text had nothing to do with that. This piece of text had to do with, how monetization is becoming more and more prevalent in our industry, and the impact of that. But the point that I'm trying to make is there are things that our experience doesn't give us the insight to know how serious it is for some people. And when these people then suddenly say like, yeah, but for someone who grew up like me and someone who is working in an environment like the environment that I'm working in and being confronted with these issues, these things hurt. And I'm very sorry, but you're an asshole if you ignore that. Now, again, I don't think we should do everything that, if there's even one person in the world who raises their hands and says, I'm offended by this, sorry, that's overboard. But when enough people say like, hey, this is actually a problem. And this is the thing, because I was one of the voices who just keep the thing in there. What's the big deal? And then Akin started talking behind the scenes with more and more people who actually really had a problem with this, and getting the real story behind it. And then you're suddenly going like, yeah, okay, I get how this text now affects you, and why this text, maybe it's time to retire it after 6 years. And thus we decided to retire it. But, but yeah, so, but this is just a big restriction. And of course, when we finally put that to bed, all of a sudden everybody started talking about the logo again. And everybody wasted today hours and hours on dealing with people wanting to change the Godot logo because it doesn't look professional enough. It's a logo, people. Seriously. It's not worth the effort that it's getting. It's not worth the attention that it's getting. We don't have an ugly logo. We don't have a logo that's absolutely crap. We have a nice logo. Might not be the most professional one, might not be the best one. Maybe that's something that we don't even want, because Godot wants to exuberate this playfulness, this fun element to itself. So having a fun, friendly-looking logo is fine. But in the end, there are far bigger fish to fry for us right now than to be busy discussing with a whole bunch of people on the internet why we need to, defending ourselves, why we have said time and time again that we are happy with our logo and we're keeping it. And again, not wanting to say that in a way like, okay, that door is closed. It's not closed. It's just that right now we are happy with our logo. We are about to put our logo on a whole bunch of merchandise. And I need it because my merchandise is getting old. It's all broken up. I want a new shirt. Yeah, I've worn this shirt way too many times. With pride, I must add. There's bigger fish to fry. There's more important things. And in the end, people are going to choose Godot over what it can do, not over which logo it has. So, well, Jan, exactly. That was my, and that's one of the things that I posted as well on the whole discussion, saying, Apple's got an apple with a bite in it. Windows has got 4 squares that look like a wavy window. Android's got a dinky Android that is used for decades. And now it's just only the head of the Android. They changed it this year. They threw away the body. It's just a... And this was one of the things that I found really hilarious. Someone saying, yeah, well, our logo is too simple. We need to make it, more complex. The Android logo is a half a circle with 2 sticks sticking out of the top and 2 holes in it. That's the logo. It can't be much simpler than that. Well, you could argue that the Apple logo is simpler than that. They're all genius logos. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dissing on the Apple logo. It's so recognizable to the brand. And again, the name Apple even, right? Why call your computer business Apple? Well, they call it Apple because they wanted to have a name that started with an A. They wanted to be at the top of the alphabet. Yeah. Well, Gillis, okay. Well, yeah. I guess that's a pretty good redirect that also had the effect of keeping everybody busy. Anyway, there's a part of me that also enjoys these discussions. Don't get me wrong. First of all, I learn heaps about different perspectives of people. I think this is my biggest problem in how I deal with others. I can come across very confronting in these discussions where I'm hard-headed and I'm just sticking up for my opinion. But at the same time, I'm loving seeing other people's perspectives, and I actually take those on board. This is one of the things that I think a lot of people misconstrue. And I noticed this with Jean as well, by the way, because I think Jean has got the same issue where he is very affirmative in his opinion. He's very assertive in his opinion because of who he is and where he's come from. And a lot of people take that for stubbornness or egocentric or something like that, where oh, he's the big boss who waves his scepter around and says this is how it's going to be, but it's not. And I've got the same problem. I come across very often in the same way, where I'm just saying, like, this is how the world works, and coming across as not wanting to accept that other people believe differently, which isn't actually the case. When you look at a discussion, even the discussion that we had then earlier in the week with that passage on the docs, I have my opinion about it, and I defend that opinion, and I voice that opinion. But I'm at the same time listening and reading about the counter arguments that people are giving. And then once someone gives me a counter argument, that I sort of go like, yeah, that actually means I'm wrong, then I will admit that I'm wrong and I will react accordingly. And that, I think, is the important bit. You know, you have to be willing to admit that you were wrong. You have to be willing to adjust your view. And that is, I think, the hard part for other people to read in people who stand or who defend their opinion or who are very assertive in communicating their opinion. Because there are so many people on the internet who won't, right? Who just, it's my way or the highway, and who will just back someone in a corner and that's it. And I can be guilty of coming across that way, which is something I am learning about every day. Anyway, I'm missing half the chat here. Okay, Jan, I'm reading about being married twice and not being ready about for proposals, but I'm totally missing why. I'm missing some context here. um, Pro version of Godot. Yeah, well, I'm not sure if that's gonna fly, but yeah, maybe. Commodore Chicken Lips. Well, that's one way of looking at the Commodore logo, I guess. But yeah, it's a C with two stripes. Well, Jan, that's really my opinion about the logo. Once you've got a logo that isn't crazy, that isn't stupid, that isn't like a 2-year-old sketch. Although some logos look like 2-year-olds could have sketched out and still be successful logos. But for me, it's brand recognition, And right now, when you see that blue little robot with his little cog head, you recognize Godot. So it's an immediately recognizable logo. And that is the hallmark of a successful logo. When people see it and immediately associate it with your product, you know that you have a marketable logo. And the rest is selling an actually good product. Well, Zahil, I think that's not really the thing is, looking at some of the people who are fighting for a logo change. One being my good friend Mike from Game from Scratch, and I hope he still calls me friend after today, because we did butt heads a little bit. But I really value his opinion because I think he's a really great guy. He's right about one thing, and that is that he's trying to market Godot with his on his channel. He loves all the different game engines. He highlights all the different game engines, and he really enjoys showcasing Godot on his channel. And he just notices that when he puts the Godot logo in the thumbnail of his videos, he doesn't get this viewership that he normally gets on a video. And his conclusion, which might be the right conclusion, is, okay, people don't like the logo, therefore don't think that that's going to be an interesting video, and they skip over the video. The big question there is anybody skipping those videos potentially a Godot user, or are they correctly identifying, oh, that's the Godot logo, I'm not interested in Godot content, I'm going to skip that video? That's the hard one. And I think the same thing with other people who are complaining about it. Especially when you use Godot as a supporting tool. You know, you are someone who hires yourself out as a developer to third parties, or you make games for others, or, you know, you make tutorials and stuff like that, or, you know, the sort of content that Mike makes. You're wanting to draw in a certain crowd who is not familiar with Godot, because that is how you expand your market share. And right or wrong, they believe a professionally looking logo is part of that deal. And again, you know, I think that lies in there lies the crux is the Godot logo professional enough or not? And what do you measure that by? And that's, I think, a really hard one. And where you can see that there is an incredible difference of opinion between groups. And I don't believe any of the groups are right or wrong. I don't think you can say that a logo is professional enough or not, because it is completely dependent on social values. It's completely dependent on where in the world you are. This is why a lot of American game companies have trouble selling their games in Japan, even though Japan is the biggest game market. It's because they don't understand the cultural differences, and that things that we find utmost importance to, you know, in our marketing fails horribly in other countries. And when you have an engine like Godot that is used worldwide, you're going to have wildly different opinions about people thinking whether something is good or bad when you are looking at something as subjective of, you know, how good is a logo. And again, the take I take is I look at other people's logos, and I look at, you know, the Android from Android, and I'm sort of going like, well, our logo looks just as cool as theirs, and they're a multi-million-dollar selling product. So I don't know. But who am I? I'm not an artist. I'm not a designer. I'm just a programmer. So, well, you know, Gillis, the thing is with when you look at John, and again, I put myself in that same basket. When you look at people with, you know, I've been around in a programmer capacity for 30 odd years now. 26. I think 26 years ago is when I got my first programming job officially. Of course, before that as a hobbyist, but you run into a lot of people who are like that. And you learn at some point in time to not take those things on face value and realize that the way I look at it, when you look at programmers, the problem that we have, and I'm doing a really generalized we here, right? This applies maybe to 10% of developers, or, you know, it only depends in a certain value. And it's also not a, you know, not to justify it or anything. But we deal with logic. You know, programming is a very logical business. It's a very exact thing to do, where you're telling the computer what steps to perform to fulfill a task. And the problem with that is that because it's logic, and because you come to a logical conclusion in how you solve something, everything clicks in your head, and you're sort of going, because I've made this work, and because I've made this work well, this must be a good way of doing things. And sometimes it's therefore hard to step back from that and go like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that this other solution isn't good either, or that someone coming from a really different intake might not come to a completely different conclusion and a different solution, and that solution is just as valuable and just as valid as mine. Or, you know, they might have a better solution and you change your mind about your own solution. But I think that is a problem, and because we deal with such a logical environment, and because as a result, things that work seem to be, they fit a puzzle. It's sometimes hard to step back from that and to sort of go like, hold on, this other person might be just coming at it from a different direction, and they might just be as good as good. Oh, the other thing which I've noticed in my career when it comes to programming, and something that is really interesting for someone like me, as someone making tutorials and YouTube videos. Everything is impossible until you learn how to do it, and then it's easy. And it might seem obvious and a weird thing to say, but it's that last bit. Once you learn it, it's easy. So once you learn how to render a triangle on screen, you can no longer put yourself in the mindset of a developer who hasn't figured it out yet, and who still has to get over that hurdle before they think it's simple. And unfortunately, it is very common to find programmers who then take that one step further and get very irritated and very annoyed. I'm not saying this applies to John. This is something much more generic. And something that I definitely suffer from time to time as well, is it becomes very hard to put yourself into the position of someone who hasn't had that light bulb moment yet, who hasn't figured out yet how that works. And what's this all doing? And unfortunately, some people take that as a license to therefore think that this other person is dumb because they haven't figured it out yet. And they've forgotten that a week ago, they were just as dumb. Well, and again, dumb is then not the right way to say. It's, there's this trick the mind plays that once you've learned how something works, then all of a sudden it's obvious, and you can't understand how someone else can't understand that this works, or that this is working in this way. Oh, you guys should check it out. Yeah, I meant the proposals that we're doing as far as features is concerned, not those sort of proposals. Oh, I'm running really behind on my chats, I think. Peter, when is the Godot merch launching? I have no idea. The wish to do merch has been around for so long because it's a good fundraising practice. There's been 1 or 2 rounds in the past, especially around when we were still allowed to do physical GodotCons. That usually there would be, in the months leading up to GodotCon, a whole bunch of shirts would be printed on. I think there were some little plasticky things made 2 or 3 years ago, like maybe a keychain or something like that. I can't remember. And they would be sold at GodotCon, or they would be part of your GodotCon registration, that you would get a T-shirt or something like that. I don't remember exactly. This T-shirt I actually had printed myself because there were no T-shirts anymore when. Actually, that's a lie. Peter printed this for me. My friend Peter actually gave that. He heard that I wanted it, and we were sort of working on getting shirts printed just for the both of us. And I was originally just gonna buy my own, and he gifted it to me at that point in time. So because I helped him out with some things, and so yeah, that was really cool. So thanks, Peter. I don't know if he's in the stream. I'm not sure. But yeah, so we had our own printed, but it's been a wish for a long time to get merch in. Again, the big problem that we always have is because we're a not-profit, we have to be careful about how do we do fundraising with merch and that sort of things. But I think there are some things in the work right now, so hopefully really, really soon. Yeah, Jan, I'm the same. I missed GDC. I actually missed GodotCon 2020 by a week. Still regret that. I was in Holland the week before, but because the skid school started the week after, I had to fly back to Australia because I was in Holland with my kids. But I was very tempted to see if I could somehow stay for a couple of days more and and travel down to Poland. But in the end, I couldn't make it work. So, yeah, regret that because that would have been really, really exciting. And then, of course, after that, GDC got organized and I had tickets ready and everything. And then it got cancelled because of COVID. It was a really costly thing for the Godot organization because we lost a couple of tickets over that. Hey, Glenn. How you going? Yeah, Jan. I'm glad they made space for me, even though I couldn't attend. All right. I think I've catched up on chat, and chat's slowed down a little bit. So let's start doing some programming. Let's start off with seeing how far we got on Sunday. Of course, there's no controls anymore right now because we disabled that. We now have that we can move our mouse around and we can see what cell we're up. And then when we get close enough... Oh, I disabled it. Sorry. I was working with making my debug status turned off. Once you get close enough, we can see our A path logic working. And yeah, so of course this only is applied when we're in the mode of I've now got this as my current character. That's actually the other thing we need to maybe use an outline shader or something like that to indicate that our character is currently selected. That's another one to put on our list of things that we need to do. You know what? That's actually a really good one. Go over here for a sec. It's on my Trello board at the moment. Oh, I'm not even logged into Trello. Sorry, guys. I'm doing this on my other screen. Continue Google. I'm glad for two-factor authentication. Sometimes it really gets in the way. Let's see. I'm obviously doing this on my other screen because you guys don't need to know my passwords and stuff. Not that it's visible, but oops, that's not gonna work. Or is it gonna? Ah, lucky, smart enough to do that. Ooh. Yeah, use that email. So that's interesting. Is that actually going to figure out and link that to my existing account? That's what I'm wondering about. Let's see if it comes up with my old... Oh, but Trello is now... Is that Lazian? Okay, it's connected my accounts. That's fine. Okay. Boards. What's this one? Why is that even on my board? I don't know. Oh! Wow, I haven't used Trello for so long. This is way outdated. Okay, can I just create a new board? Create a new board. Board title is going to be Dungeon Game. All right. So now I'm happy to go in. Why would I want to do a 14-day free trial for something that I'm never going to pay for? I might not even keep using. I might actually move this on to what do you call it? GitHub at some point. Anyway, add a list to do. Add a list. Working on. Add a list. Done. There we go. A standard Kanban. Let's see. We're working on right now a star movement. Boom. No. Why did you move that? There we go. Okay. Add a card. There we go. Highlight current character. That's something that we need to do. Okay, what else do we need to add to this game? We need to go and move our character. Handle attack phase. Spawn enemies. AI to enemies. Spawn traps. I want to have those. I'm pretty sure we're going to find a whole bunch more things eventually, but I'm going to be very surprised if I actually keep up on this, because I'm always very terrible at these things. Yeah, I'm just winging it, but, you know, might as well. And I'm pretty sure our to-do list is going to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. Well, actually, you know, having an add-on that does a simple Kanban board in inside of Godot, where you can track your progression inside of your project itself, maybe not a bad idea. I wouldn't build it though. Better things to do in my time. And again, you know, GitHub nowadays has that in GitHub project, so that's kind of cool. Anyway, so yeah, so we wrote all our A-star logic on stream last time, and it's really working very well. So every time that I enter a new cell, I re-execute the A-star logic to see what the fastest path is to that cell. That fastest path is currently shown in blue. Now, obviously, I want to, because this is only debug information, I obviously want to go and show that path. But I think the first thing that we're going to do is actually implement our click. So let's go back to our Kanban and actually say that we're going to start working on moving our character. Does that actually mean that we have our A-star code done? Yeah, we actually have our A-star code done. Because that's working. Now we just need to move our character. Zahil, that is the story of my life. So yeah. I am now doing it for my Godot work. I think that's actually public as well. So that at least, you know, I have something that I can communicate and that other people can see what I'm currently working on. Although, again, it's already out of date a little bit because I'm right in between things. And obviously, my big goal is to start working on XR support in Godot 4 with a focus on getting OpenXR to work first. That's the big plan. But there's a hurdle in the way. And the hurdle is that we actually need to have a render engine that supports what it is that we want to do. And while I could simply... Oh, wow. How did that suddenly change? While I could simply just start building and build it based on how we did things in Godot 3, we actually don't want it to work the way that we did it in Godot 3. The Godot 3 approach to stereoscopic rendering was designed very much based on how OpenVR worked way in the beginning. And then as we started implementing things like Oculus and things like that, we had to jump through some pretty ugly hoops to actually do things more properly and to do things in a way that they perform. Now, the other thing that is a big part of that is that there's also newer techniques now that require a different approach. You know, my hope, for instance, is to put multi-view front and center for stereoscopic rendering, because that allows us to create a much cleaner architecture to stereoscopic rendering instead of duplicating a whole bunch of implementation. We can piggyback on a lot of existing implementation and just handle the stereoscopic rendering of all the objects that get, you know, become part of what the renderer needs to render. And there's a lot of experimentation involved there. So we have to get there first. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to implement multi-view first and then do XR support. Far from it. But one of the things that we do need to do first is to do a couple of changes in the render engine. Now, the other thing is, the other hurdle, and that's actually my thing for next week, that I'm starting on next week, is right now, the Vulkan renderer that John made was made with the same mindset as the OpenGL3 renderer in Godot 3, is create a renderer that is as high quality as we can make it, focusing on making next generation desktop games. With the footnote that Jean has done a way better job than he did with Godot 3, which is very understandable because when he did the Godot 3 renderer, he had to get through this incredibly steep learning curve. But also he was working against a graphics API that didn't support necessarily the things that we wanted to do very properly. And when you look at the current renderer in Godot 4, I showed some things off on previous streams. It is a really solid base to build a game on top of. The problem, though, is we are using techniques, and this is the same problem that we ran into with OpenGL 3, but this time we knew what we were doing, is that we're using techniques that don't work on the lower end hardware and that don't work on mobile hardware. So, for instance, a really good example of that is we're currently using compute shaders to do our lighting work. So there is a step between, when we cull all the objects that we want to render, which right now is also threaded, which is really cool. So our culling is a whole lot more performant. That's all happening on the CPU. At some point in time, we know the objects that will be on screen that we actually want to render. And then the next step is, okay, looking at a scene like this, for instance, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 lights currently active in this scene. Now, in the old engine, what we will be doing as part of the culling for every object that we render is we would determine which of these lights potentially light that object. So light this floor. And then when that floor gets rendered, we send the light information for the lights that illuminate that object, and we render that. You hit a ceiling, a performance ceiling, and a data ceiling once you get to about 16 lights, which is why every object in Godot 3 can only be hit by 16 lights at maximum. When you look at this stage that's in between, this compute shader stage, it's I forgot the name now, clustered lighting, I believe it is. What we're doing there is Godot already does a pre-press render step. Basically, what we're doing is we're rendering the entire scene without any color. We're just rendering depth. And all of a sudden, we have our depth map. And we do that because it means that once we have a depth map and we render that with very cost-efficient shaders, because it's not outputting anything to color, it's not doing any of the lighting code, etc., etc. That means that once we do the real pass, the real lighting pass, and we render all our objects for the color stage, we already have our depth information, and we can therefore already discard all the fragments that are behind it. So it's, I don't want to call it occlusion culling, but it's close. You're not culling the objects, but you are culling all the fragments before the lighting comes in. While normally, it's luck of the draw. If the frontmost object gets rendered first, any object behind it never gets rendered. But if the behind, things that are further apart or behind something, obscured by something, like for instance here, when we look at this bench here, part of that bench is behind this pillar. it's possible for that whole bench to be rendered first and then the pillar to be rendered on top. Well, if you've done a depth pre-pass first, then those fragments that are behind the pillar never get rendered. And that is really important if you have really expensive lighting calculations. Now, the fun thing is, because we have our depth pre-pass, we can actually use that depth buffer to also figure out which fragments that we are going to render are going to be lit by which lights. So we can do a pass between rendering our depth buffer and rendering our color buffer. We can put a pass in between that is going to calculate for every fragment on screen or every area on screen which lights affect that area. And all of a sudden, you find out that limits of lights is, when you apply it per fragment, is much less likely to be hit. Now, there is a trick here. We're not actually doing that for every individual pixel on screen. We're actually, this is why it's called a clustered lighting stage. We're actually doing it in clusters. So there's like tiles of a certain size that are being evaluated and seeing which lights affect that tile in the scene. But all of a sudden, you know, you can have hundreds of lights in your scene. As long as no fragment is lit by more than 16 lights, you can have almost as many lights in the scene without any noticeable decrease in performance. The flip side of that is you need compute shaders. You need to be able to do that step. And that's not available in all hardware. So one of the things that I'm going to be working on, and that's just one example, right? There's a bunch of other things in the new renderer that just do not work on lower end hardware, either on lower end GPUs or mobiles. You know, mobile phones are notorious when you look at that, because the optimizations that are being done on mobile phones, on the GPUs there, to make them battery efficient and make them fast with, you know, the limited hardware that you have. Some techniques that work really well on desktop just don't work on mobile. They grind to a halt on mobile. So we're going to end up with different versions of the Vulkan renderer. A version that targets high-end, that does all these really cool things, and then a version that targets more low-end. And of course, for us, for VR, you know, because first of all, when you look at VR on mobile devices, you obviously want that. But even on desktop VR, because VR is so much more resource intensive, you also want to be able to have a renderer that uses more efficient techniques that might not look as good as, you know, the higher end techniques do, but that save you a whole bunch of performance. Game freezes when calculating A star. Which game freezes when calculating A star? The Clinton York game? All right. A star is incredibly cool, but it has a weakness. I solved the weakness in my A star implementation that I did on stream last Sunday, because of the type of game that I'm making. I'm making a dungeon crawler that's based on, you know, which is a turn-based game, based on normal turn-based logic. So you have a maximum number of steps that you can do each turn. You have a number of action points that determine your attacks that you can do in one turn. So I currently have put my mage that my mage is only allowed to take 5 steps. And that means that when we're processing our A step, the moment that we reach that 5-step point, we are already discarding that as an option. Which is why, you know, and unfortunately, can I do this? Oh, no, don't want that one. Okay, let's move that. Yes. I just wanted to make sure that I can move my mouse without it actually influencing something. So in this case, what you're seeing is we are only evaluating all these tiles until we figure out where we're coming here. If you would do this for a normal A-star routine, you would see that it would actually have tested a whole bunch of tiles around here as well. It would have still gotten there pretty quickly, but it would have tested much more. But right now, I'm actually going that when it tests this cell, because all these cells are being tested as well, but I'm already figuring out that if I make that step, I'm never going to be able to reach that tile in 5 moves. So I'm already discarding it. But when you are running a normal... oh, the torches are skipping frames. Yeah, that's actually the updating of these... Well, let me finish my talk about the weakness of A-star, just because there might be other people who are interested in knowing this. If you don't have that limiter in how many steps you are allowed to do, which a lot of games don't have the ability to do. You know, you make an RTS, a real-time strategy game, and you know your tank is on the left corner of the map, and you want it to go to the right corner of the map, and you click on the right corner of the map. You want your pathfinder to find that whole path, and it'll take half an hour for that tank to finally reach its destination. You don't really care, but you want to find that path over that whole map, and that might take 100 steps to figure out. That's fine. Now, in the case that there is a path to that location that you click, A-star is still fairly efficient to find that path. It fails when there is no path, because A-star is designed to find the most efficient path very quickly. But the moment that an efficient path is blocked, it starts trying to find the next efficient, and next, the next one, until it finds the least efficient path. If it doesn't find a way to get to the cell you're going, it will basically check every possible place in your map before it finally finds out that it can never reach its end goal. And that's where you lose a lot of cycles. Now, so Declan, you're saying my torches are skipping frames. Yes. So when you are looking, when I'm doing this, you see that the torches are skipping frames. Now, that's not the A-star logic. It is the crappy way that I have done my little debug info. Because what I'm doing for every tile that you're seeing some text in, I'm creating a viewport that I'm rendering to. And I'm actually allocating those viewports every time that the A-star changes to kind of save on resources. Because when I started with this and we had a slightly bigger map, it was literally creating thousands of viewports, and it would take 30, 40 seconds just to load the level. And seeing it's just a debug thing that I added in to visualize what the A-star logic is doing. Yeah. That's why it's skipping. So that is not something I'm keeping. That is just something I'm doing for showing off how the algorithm works. And you can see that right now. Well, you can't see anymore that it works, but it is still working. And then actually, let's actually do that first. And let's actually add in. I'm gonna do that over here. No, that's not in cell, is it? Hold on. I think I need to do that on the global stage. That's my current character. Current cell. Yeah, I've got my current cell here. So, I'm just gonna add an enum in here. Current cell status. Okay. I'm just going to call a cell status defaults. Just going to add that in. Then cell status can move. Cell status can't move. We're just going to start with those 3 statuses. And I actually want to make sure that this is the first thing that we have here. Current cell status is cell status default. No, actually, not over. I'm going to add that one in there. Can move, cannot move. Current cell status. I need to write that in full. Helps if I spell it correctly. All right. So, func set cell status. Status. All right. And what we're going to do here is if we have a current cell, let's go and put a pass in there so it's happy. What am I doing to... Okay, I think I do need to move this to the cell. I do need to move this to the cell. All right, and that means that I'm going to move these to the cell. Because this is just tracking where I am. That's okay. Okay. I want to move this into its own... I'm actually going to put it here. There we go. All right. Okay. Okay. So in this case, I'm actually quite happy to just say current cell status is cell status not over. There we go. And of course, I need to type that in full, which is really annoying. And I'm actually going to change that to cell status, not current cell status. Because this is now a status that we're going to keep for every cell. It also means that in this case, I don't actually care about that. But here, what we're going to do is, means that I'm going to change that as well. You guys getting annoyed by the sound yet? All right. Cell status is status. So we're going to change the status. That also means that here, when we're entering, we're going to start by putting set cell status to cell status defaults, which again needs to have cell status in front. There we go. All right. So we're going to have to set the status here. on a second. Just let me quickly react to this. Alrighty. So the thing that I want to do here. Actually, does Godot have a switch command? Or a match? I actually never found out, because I know Python's got one. So we've got if else, that's always very ugly. Maybe that's the only thing that we can do. Match. There we go. See, match. Perfect. Match cell status. All right. Cell status. Defaults. Now I want to make this much cooler. But for now, all we're just going to do here. You can see that I made a few small changes to ridiculous coding here before the stream started. All we're going to do right now is change the color of the tile that we've got selected. Actually, that reminds me. Where did I put? Yeah, I already put all the debugging stuff separately. Very good. Scenes, rooms, cell. So eventually I'm going to remove all that stuff. I'm going to regret changing that. I don't really like that name. What did I call it before? Tile mesh. Yeah, just keep it that. I'm going to regret renaming that if I do. Tile mesh. That's a good one. That is going to be a problem. Because that is now like this. All right. Actually, we're going to do that. Why did I change this into a visual shader again? I think because I wanted to do something cool with it. I never ended up doing something cool with it. All right. Let's go and prepare this for later. So what we're going to do here is export material. And I might actually end up removing that cell material for now. Default cell material. Export material. Move to cell material. Export material. Can't cell material. Okay, so let's go and have another look at this one. What are we doing here? Use it shadow disable and unshaded. I think I'm going to get rid of that one, but I think I just want to go and use normal materials. Eventually, I think we're going to go back to that, but not for now. So I'm creating 3 different materials here. Obviously, I want to have the same things. So this is going to be unshaded. Oh, and I think what we did, because someone made that suggestion, is, yeah, we already put cast shadows off. So the shadows are completely gone anyway. So now I can go and say copy, paste. What? Oh, that's a mesh. No. Oops. Here we go. Copy. Paste. There we go. That one's there. Hi, Asterion. Thank you for joining. Yeah, so that's the ridiculous coding add-on. Actually, I haven't even ridiculous coding by John. What's his name? Because I did plug his game. Go check it out. Gravity Ace. But he has got this really cool plugin called Ridiculous Coding that you can use to do that effect with. And I made a few small changes to it just to make it a little bit less aggressive, because it was, first of all, very loud and kind of overlapped what I was coding, so I couldn't really see what I was typing. And that's still a problem right now, so I'm thinking of moving it, or making it a little less overbearing. But it is a really cool effect. All right, so again, we've got 3 individual things, but I'm going to change some things here. So I'm going to make this green. There we go. And then this one also needs to be unshaded. But I'm going to make this one, I'm going to make that one red. There we go. And again, these are the standard materials, but because we've made the materials, we can easily change the materials later on to something more valid. Now, I've defined them as export variables so that we can easily set them in our property inspector, but it's not actually intended to make them settable from outside of the cell. They are going to be the same ones. Now, the other thing, eventually I'll probably end up saving these to disk. Now means that I can actually delete this one because we're no longer using that. So I want to clean it up. Eventually, I'll probably save these materials to disk so that it's more easily to modify them. But Godot is smart enough to only create these 3 instances. Even though we've got hundreds of cells in our world, it's still using the same 3 resources. It is pretty efficient in that way. Anyway, all that we're going to do now is we're going to say set material, I think. Set shader. No. Material 0. Why can I never remember what that is, and why is my auto-completing not helping me out here? Mesh instance. Set surface material. Set surface. No idea why that's not auto-completing. Material. So we're going to set that to the default material. Now, again, in the final version of this, I want to make sure that's animated and do all sorts of cool stuff with it. But for now, we're just going to do it like this. That's going to be our move to material. And then I can't move is going to be can't sell material. I've made it a bit ambiguous because we might have other statuses where we want to make it red when we do that. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our character scene here, and we're going to make sure that if we have a path, we can do our 2cell set cell status is okay. That might need to be a little bit more. Cell status dot can move, else can't move. Okay, so that should mean that if we're hovering above a cell that we can't move to, whoa! Okay, so we might be getting this. too early. That's interesting. That doesn't make any sense. Oh no, I am misreading that. That needs to have a number in there. Although I did say null, so not sure yet. We'll see. Okay, now, but it's still saying null instance, so it's not finding. It's not finding time mesh because it's not called time mesh. That's why the autocompletion wasn't working. Because I spelled that wrong. I can't spell, guys. So, we are red if we can't, and green if we can. Alright. So, this gives us a good status update that we know whether that's working. That reminds me, how's this? Move our character. Okay, so make nice. I want that in there. Those are all things that we eventually need to do. All right, so we can't move to ourselves. We can't move on top of our knight. But we can move to a bunch of other things. Now, of course, we still need to clean up a whole bunch of these tiles to make sure that we only have cells where we can actually interact. So when there's no interaction at all, I'm not even, like here, I'm not even showing cells. So that's good. Yeah, spelling the bane of all coders, exactly. All right, so let's see if we can actually make our character move when we click on it. So, mouse handler, input event. Event is mouse input motion. Very cool. Yeah, we're keeping that. That's very cool. Now, no, we probably want to move that to our player character logic. No, I'm going to do that through mouse handling. Yeah, we're going to make sure that we're going to send this mouse button. There we go. So this is a mouse button event. Wondering why it's giving an error, but it's a properly valid error. How are we in time, by the way? I do need to 10:30. I do need to make sure that we end the stream on time because I've got a meeting at 7 a.m. in the morning. It's gonna be fun and early. So I want to get to bed somewhat in time, not at 3 o'clock the last time we had a stream. Although that was a lot of fun. And we did get a lot done, so that was pretty good. All right. So this is one part where I'm sort of going like, Godot obviously has the ability to send the mouse events to all. You know what? I am going to do that. I'm going to move this to our global state. I'm actually going to put it here because else we're just going to call our cell, and then the cell is going to go call back into our global state, and it's just really, really convoluted that way. Now I don't want to put it on the character node because we might have, 4 characters on the board. Only one is current, and we know who is current in our global state handler. So that to me is a good reason to put the input handling for this sort of thing over here. Actually, do I react on actions here? That's a good one. I think I'm going to want to do that. Do we have any mouse events in this? No, I'm gonna keep this on. I'm gonna keep this on here for now. I might change that at some point in time. Yeah, strange typos are a wonderful thing. Okay. Are we gonna react on a mouse down or a mouse up? Okay, we want to know if there's a current cell and event dots button index 0 and event pressed. In this case, yeah, that should not be an assign. It should be a compare. In this case, we're going to send to our current character node that's a good one. How do we do that here? Yeah, we gotta get turn state here. Which actually, we should change to a match. Because we'll likely be reacting on the other turn states in a due time as well. I think a match performs much better. Which means that in our main character script, this guy, point to cell entered, we have there. Yep, exactly. Perform action. I'm actually going to send a cell to that. Or do we remember our current cell here? Oops, not here, here. Oh no, because we got our move current path already. Okay. So we're not going to make that assumption. Okay, so you're going to go get out. Boom. All right. We're going to do that. And that means that we're going to move our to a path. Okay. Okay. go. All right. And that actually means, so let's do this, perform action. Boom. And that also means that over here, we are actually going to moving. We're going to put a state in there for moving. No. I think that's going to be an internal one here. Which means that we're going to go here. We're just going to return and not, oh, return. We're going to leave that alone. All right. So our current path now creates the cells that we're going to go through. So we're actually going to make a little loop here that is going to, yes, it is Jotson's plugin, which is really fun. Typing of the dead. Okay. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to say, actually, no, we're going to say match. Boom. We're only going to do this when we're in our move state. So what we're going to do here is moving is true. And then when we finish, we're going to say moving is false because we're done with it. And what we're going to do here is while not current move path dot empty. So while we still have things in our move path, we're going to do the move. All right. It's going to go and let's see. Do we have a pop that actually removes and returns the first element? I think we need to go first to last. Our next cell is pop front. So we're going to take the entry at the very beginning of our move path. We're going to copy that into next cell, but we're also going to remove that from our array. And that means that we can now move our character to that. So we're going to come back to that in a minute. And that means that eventually, once we've made all our moves, then that obviously will become empty. All right. And then at the end, we're saying we're no longer moving. And now we're going to say global state next turn state. So now our move state is finished. And we're going to whatever is the next one, which currently doesn't exist. We're going to go to max, which means we're going to the next character, etc., etc. All right. Now the other thing that we could do okay, became the current character. So we're always going to become the current character at the start. actually, yeah, I think I'm going to want to be able to send that to here. So became current character. State, move state changed. In this case, we can actually send the state through 3 months. And what I actually want to do here, I'm going to go into pass here. And I'm going to do this on my move state changed. In this case, I can just do p states. There we go. So now I get a state change. But that also means that here, what I want to do is else current character node. Let's be safe. We should always have a current character node, but you never know. Move state changed. Turn states. Should I call it turn state change? I'm going to be consistent. Let's call this turn state changed. Character. And the reason why I want to do this, I want to split that logic out. And right now it's not that important. There we go. So we're going to make became current character. Instead of having to duplicate code there, we're then also going to call the turn state changed on there. There we go. Even though our turn state is already set correctly because we set it first back to turn first, which of course in our case is our move state, because that is our first one currently. Yes, I was as Alex. I saw Jitspo use it during his stream, and I asked him what it was, and I was like, "Okay, I'm going to try that out too, and we'll see if we keep it." I think it's funny. I'm a little worried that it's a little overpowering, and it gets away in the way a little bit, and sometimes it does obscure things that I want to be able to see. So, but it's fun. I might keep it. I might not. We'll see. All right. So the thing that we can do now, when we look at our character, we already have the number of action points that we get per turn. So we're going to go and have a new value here saying bar AP left. And what we're going to do here is we're going to assign that to actually, I'm just going to call that AP. There we go. So what we now can do here is we're going to say if AP is 0, then we're going to do that. Now the other thing that we want to do is I need to send my AP through here that we have left. Because if we've already taken 3 steps, we want to be able to do 2 more. That also means that we should have a button somewhere on screen where you can say, okay, let's just end our move turn. We don't want to finish our 5 moves. But if we have finished it, we automatically want to go to the next state. And if that is the last state, we actually automatically go to the next character. And if it's the last character, we automatically go to the next turn. All right. So this also means that AP is AP minus 1. There we go. And what we want to do here is while current move is not empty and AP bigger than 0. If somehow we end up with more steps in our path than we actually have AP for, it shouldn't because we restricted it here. But let's say that we did. We want to get out of our while loop. You know, our our move path isn't empty yet. All right. So now we need to do the actual move. We need to go and move our character to the new cell location. All right. What is a nice way of doing this? Because the thing that I'm thinking about is using yield. Hi, Powell. How you going? So this is really where I'm thinking about using this. Okay. Because the thing is, we want to go and move our character. But are we going to do that? Let's make sure we're in the right scene here. So we want to move our character. To a new location. Maybe we can use a tween for that. Because we definitely have a tween completed. All right. Let's have a look. Because I haven't actually done much with tweens yet. Tween. There we go. Perfect. Let's use that for it. Alrighty. And then we can start it moving. Alrighty. And we actually need multiple tweens. Because we want to tween to rotate our character to the direction that it should walk to. And we want it to move to that cell. All right. Let's go and get our mage for a sec. Okay, so our mage is Pointing that way. Pointing that way. All right, let's do the move first, and then worry about the rotation. All right. So, let's do that over here. So, the first thing that we want to do. Move 2. So, move from is going to be our current global position. Okay, now this is interesting. MI. No, I put it up. Okay. Ah, I moved that one up. That's why. That is why. That is why. Okay, we're going to abuse that. We're actually going to... We're going to make sure that that should always be in our origin point, but indeed one up. Which means that we're actually not going to tween our global position. We're going to do our local position. But I move 2 is going to be our next cell. Global transform. Actually, no, that can be a cell. We know that's going to be a cell, so that now auto completes. Very good. Move our local. There we go. And then we can say lower tween dots. Was it? Interpolates. Okay, I probably did something wrong again because self. Can I do that? I hope so. Okay, I'm a little worried that... You know what? We're going to make our life easy. And we're going to say... Onready bar tween node is... Node. I know I can do dollar there, but in this case I like the function call there. Tween node. All right, move from, move to. Tween dots. I'll do linear. Use in out. There we go. Wait for our tween to finish. Yield tween node. All right, so now looking at tween all completed. All right, I'm pretty sure I've forgotten the time. I did. Let's say indeed it would take 1 second to move there. We might make it move faster, but we'll see. I have no idea if this is going to work. Yeah, transform origin. Okay, let's see if that works. Nope. All right. All right, Window's not getting cold. Okay, where are we going to go wrong with that? We have a current cell. Let's see, our event. There we go. Button index is 1. Really? Okay. That'll explain that. All right. Why does it say next cell is true? I don't know. There's a cell. There we go. 4 action points left. From there. Okay, that looks a little far. We might be popping it in the wrong order. I'm not sure. I don't know. We will see. And Alfred is going to go and copy the Y across. That might be smarter. Yeah, I probably should be using that. Oh, and note tween start. Okay, that's probably something that we want to do. Because indeed, that's just going to wait for nothing. Transform to object. Okay, so it doesn't like that is. So that does need to be self. There we go. Actually, oh no, this one. That should help us quite a bit. All right. Let's go put some prints in there so that we can see what's happening. All right. All right. It's calling our moves, but it's not actually tweeting. Why not? Okay. Minor duration. Type is position delay. Okay. I think semicolons. Okay, that's possible. Well, let's try that first because that does make sense. Because I think it's indeed, it has to have a way to know. Well, remember this is a 3D thing, so Yeah, I guess we could do translation. That would work. Look. There we go. Okay, now the problem is that it's not moving to the center of our... It's moving to the top. Is that really... Is it now floating or is it in the wrong place? Because this is nicely 1 minus 1. And if we go into our room, and we select one of these guys, as far as I can see, it looks like it needs to do that. So I'm going to go get rid of those find path things because we now know that that bit works. And it's just spamming my log a little bit too much. That's an A star. Don't think we need that anymore. There we go. Okay. I think it's going up because we can see the 1 there. So I think our cells are actually in the right place as well. Okay. All right. Well, the other thing that we could do is we're actually going to use method, and we're going to call a method back on our thing here. So, because obviously we do need to do our global transform because our cells are nicely up as well. So we're going to remove that. And change this to method. Move character. There you go. Because the thing is, this is not a property. This is a property, but that's a property of the property. I think the tween has got a problem with accessing that. There we go. Oh, now we're moving on knights. Okay, now we're allowed to move our mage again. I think we need to make him move faster because I think he's way too slow. Oh, that's interesting. Why? Well, I think we also need to put some info on the display about our states and stuff. Hi, Frozen. How you going? Because I have a feeling that we moved our knight and we I don't think we went nicely round robin, so we'll see. I think I lost the state at some point in time. But that's something that we just need to start displaying so that we know what's going on. All right. Okay. I actually want to put a delta in here. Actually, we're going to call that distance. There we go. We're going to get the length. So now we have something that says, okay, how far do we need to move? All right. And actually, I don't want it to be a variable. I want it to be constant. Yeah, so this is going to be how fast we move in meters per second. Which means that we should be able to do... Yeah, don't care about you anymore. And now our character should move... Okay, I should have times that, not divided that. Times... Because it's duration. I think I might want to actually make him even faster. There we go. Actually not call that move duration, but move, sorry, move speed, but move duration. So now this guy's turn. It's the knight. Oh, knight's turn already. So yeah, we definitely need a way to yeah, super slow-mo Jim Carrey. So obviously, I haven't set up all the different properties there. Yeah, we definitely need to... Now it's white again. So for whatever reason, it's now lost who is playing. I don't know why. Anyway, we'll figure that out eventually. It's obviously not able to do a move at some point. Our basis of moving is at least working. All right. Now, I do actually want my delta here. There we go. Because now we have our distance. That also means that we can now say angle 2 is okay, vector, hold on, vector 2 delta x delta z all right. Okay. These are remove. I don't like this, but else my checks are going to fail for some reason. Yeah, that was called delta move. There we go. Angle from is going to be global. No, this guy, I really don't care about that. So we're going to do rotation dot y. And now we're going to say tween node dot Let's see if we can do an interpolate property on this one. I have no idea. Rotation, y. Angle from, angle to. Let's make it move really fast. Yeah, so there we go. No idea if this is going to work. All right, Jan, see you next time. No, thought so. Okay. Global transform dots. Then I'm going to just do this. Oh no, I can't do that because that is actually. What? Ah. Need to call that differently. Rotate character. Reserved word. Internal name of a function. Alright. Really? You're still not happy? Why not? Yeah, that's rotation degrees. Sign values type, vector 3 doesn't match the. Maybe now? Yeah. Beats me, but I did wrong. As long as I'm not sure if you can actually paste links in YouTube. I don't think that actually works. Oh, my camera is linked to my. Okay. I actually am gonna rotate my pivot instead. Okay. All right. It looks like it's rotating the wrong way. um. All right. Mage 3D. You're pointing. Let's just negate it, see if that works. No idea. Oh, she's going back to white again. So, all right. I really need to put in my my states in my display so that we know what's going on. All right, that's definitely not the right thing to do. All right. Vector 2. Angle. All right. In respect to the vector 1, 0, and I think that's our problem, that we're not doing that. So, to a given vector. And I think that's what we're going to need to do. And our vector being, when we're looking at our mage, he's looking forward on the blue, so on the z-axis, and that's our problem. Okay. So we're going to do angle 2, vector 2, 0, 1. Yep, glad you found the link, Brower. Okay, so we're again going straight to white after one move. My gut feeling says that we're never... We might be getting our tween all completed. Might be too much time between these two steps. I don't know. I think we're going to go and quickly make a small detour. And start working on some UI stuff. So when we're looking at here, I want to go and add in a canvas layer. We're going to call that UI. And we're going to go save that as a separate script. There we go. And that is going to be a 2D UI. Turn. We're just going to dump some things on screen just so that we have it. And then at some later point in time, we'll make a nice UI for this. There we go. Okay, I also need to go and do this. Good enough for me for now. All right, so func set turn int pass. There we go. And if we look at a global state, I already defined a next turn thing here. So what we're doing here is we're going to say turn text is turn. And already what we're going to do is global state dot connect next turn self set turn. Perfect. All right. Now let's add a label for state. And again, assign our font. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do that. Let's state. All right. Global state dot connect. Connect. Next state. Self. Set state. Match states as oops. Glow. It does get a little crazy with those things. Yeah, I don't know what it is with YouTube, but it doesn't allow posting links in the comments. Turn state dot. Well, that's really the only state that we have currently. All right, it's gonna be move. So we don't have any add states. Do we have a default in match? Oh yeah. There we go. Let's see what that does. So we're in turn 1. Oh, state hasn't changed yet because, of course... Oh, we never get our change state because we only have one state. Okay, this should already be turn 2, so... We're not emitting states, are we? Alright. Cool. Emit signal. Next turn. Turn. Yep. Emit signal. Next character. And I'm actually sending a note through there. And here I want to do emit signal. Next state. Current state. That might help. Now again, our starting state is still state because we actually haven't done anything. Now we go to move. So I need to make sure that my my starting state is good. But now we're at turn 2. The other thing is that obviously that when we change to our other character, we need to also move our camera to our correct character. All right. So I actually want to do mode transform. That's the other way around. Come to that. So basically, when we change, oh well, we can do that. We can do that here then. All right. Global state dot connect. Next character. Self. Set character. Cool. Func. Set character. Character. And what we can simply do here is can pivot. No, that needs to be on ready bar. Camera roots is get. Really? There we go. Too many options. Camera root dot set parent. No, can't do it like that. Okay, so if camera classify this so that we can actually do something with it. No, can't indeed do that. All right, so we're gonna see who's our current parent. If current character. I think actually add child would probably be enough because I think it removes it automatically from GD native C++. Probably at some point I might do some. The problem that I have with doing GD native at this point in time is not having. I was sitting really low, wasn't I? For some reason I sink down the later it gets. The problem that I have is finding a really good topic to do for GD native. Now I do have my procedural mesh generator that I wrote a little while ago that I really want to do again. So who knows? Maybe that's something that I might end up doing at some point. Whoa, that went really badly. Okay, so I'm actually not going to remove it. I'm just going to go and do this. Because I have a feeling that when you add a node to another parent, it'll work. Okay. So we can't actually do that. Why not? Yeah. Oh. Ah. This guy needs to go there. All right. Let's see if that wants to work now. Okay, I bet you that I can now not do it because it already has a parent. It always has parent base. So I do. So the bug that I had just a minute ago is that I removed it, but I didn't correctly add it because I made a typo there. And now I don't have a camera. Crashes the thing. All right, so now we're on our night. Very cool. And now we're back to this guy. Cool. And we're again at the place where, for whatever reason, and I think it's because it doesn't finish that yield. That's my suspicion. It's not doing that yield properly. Now, there is another way that we can solve that. And that is to actually react to our tween all completed. Because I have a feeling that it's not getting here always. Let's see if we're right about that. Okay. No, we finished that move, and still we are now white. Alright, let's do that. Now the other thing that I want to do here... Alright. So... that would have been updated. Oh, our incel... Oh, that's working for that. So we should definitely know what cell we're in. Because here we can see that if we're moving before he's finished, we get that busy moving because it's saying like, hey, I'm still moving. Don't do this to me. We might have actually fixed it with doing that. Oh no. Ah. So yeah, when we're moving this while we're still moving, it does turn white. So far so good. It's actually pretty cool. Yeah, I think we've got it working pretty well now. I think it's just because whenever I'm moving while our character is still in the process of moving, then obviously, you know, we're not doing our A-star logic, and I think it got stuck at that point in time. I would have expected it to sort of loosen up again if we start moving again, but it seems to be pretty solid now. I do believe we have our... oh no, there we go. Okay, but it's saying finished move. I am moving, so for whatever reason, we know that we've gotten our character to be current. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. do not get it. Well, unless we don't have our from cell anymore. But how would in cell ever get cleared? No, because when we look at the character, the in cell is exit cell. No, we got a mage exit cell 0503, but it never went back in. And that is our problem. So now it's no longer in a cell. You know what? I think that's actually a fluke. And you can kind of see that it's entered cell in cell, and sometimes it exits a cell. But I don't actually think it's exited it. Why is it always a mage? Why is it never... Oh, there's a knight. That is weird, though. Oh, no, because it's going from one cell to the other. Thanks for joining, Pixter. Have a great day at work. Okay. All right. I think what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to change this. Cells. All right. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say if in cells has cell, it doesn't in cells push back. So, okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say if in cells has p cell, so we're going to say there. All right. In cells dot remove. Can't I just remove a value? Erase, I think. Yep, that's the one that I need. Erase. Well, so if it's not in there, we add it. The thing that I'm worried about is when we're moving diagonal, we might be in multiple cells at the same time, and it might just not figure out the right cell to leave. That's what I think is happening here. So here we're going to do that, and here we're going to say if in cells empty. If it's empty, then we go to null. And else we're just going to just pick the first one. And actually, I want to go put that over there. And I'm pretty sure that can print nulls. So let's see. Yeah, I know it's. I'm not convinced yet whether I'm going to keep using that that feature. So here we can indeed see that we're actually moving into multiple cells, but eventually we end up in a single cell. And I actually want to go over here. Actually, let's go and put the whole array there. So yeah, the last exit is now in one cell. Perfect. And that's what we like to see, because when our character is centered on a cell, it should be pretty clear that that's the only cell that they're in. Okay. I'm happy to comment that out because it's just a whole bunch of spam. There we go. And I'm going to put a remark here for a sec. While moving, we could be in multiple cells. All right. I'm on time. Almost finished. Okie dokie. There we go. Now it's this guy's turn. And now it's this guy's turn. Very eerie in some of these rooms. Hmm. I'm kind of wondering if we should be showing our cursor when we are inside hidden rooms. I might end up doing this. Actually, I might end up that if you can't go there, that we actually hide it. That might be what I end up doing. Because you could, once there's a monster here, you could actually use your cursor to sort of detect the monster, because you'd see the monster obscuring the cursor. But I think it's way too early in the development to worry about that. All right. Now, another thing that I'm thinking about is we kind of need a mini map, don't we? Um, hmm. All right. Let me think. I'm going to call this camera rig. And I'm going to move this guy in here. And now we're going to save this thing as a separate scene. That, of course, means that here you have to rename this to camera rig. There we go. Okay. So for now, we have our camera pointing at an angle to view our character, which is great. But I think that also means that we are going to... Okay. Viewport. So that's going to be our map. Actually, I'm going to call that our map viewport. 500 by 500 for now. Should be big enough. Maybe way too big. 250 by 250 for now. All right. Happy to render that up as per normal. It might need to flip that. That is going to be always perfect. Then we now need a camera. And we are going to... No, we're going to do a spatial first. Look at. Now we're going to have a camera, and that camera is going to be up here. And we're going to look downwards. There we go. That's our camera looking down at our map. Perfect. All right. And now I need a remote transform. And we're going to go and put our look at there. And we're going to do that. So this is going to make sure that we're going to copy the location that we're in, because that camera rig location is going to be linked to our player. And that's going to copy that into there because, of course, our viewport is going to break our coordinate system. And then we have a camera looking down on the world. So the last thing that we need is a texture rect. And we're going to create a viewport texture that is going to point to our viewport, and that's going to look straight down. Perfect. And I'm actually not going to care about any of the other stuff. Except that I want this to be top right. So let's see if it actually puts that into the right place. I have no idea. Because one thing that I don't know is if that actually... Oh yeah, that'll move fine. Look at that. I think our camera needs to be higher to actually show a bit more of a world. Yep. So now the other thing that we could do, we could make this an orthogonal. I can't ever pronounce that word. Okay, that is way too zoomed in. Do I need to go the other way? I always forget. I think that's right. Okay, so now we can see that, but we definitely need to flip one of the directions. Okay. So, viewport. Is that on the viewport? Or is that now here? Vertical flip. Cool. Hi, Mateo. How are you going? I'm almost finished for the night. I think I want my my map to be a little bit bigger. But the other thing that I want to see is if I change this to 45. No. 55. Is that also 55 then? No. This one needs to be 5. There we go. And that still stays in the right top corner. Slightly slow in updating. That's funny. That's funny. Anyway, it is what it is. I still think that we're way too high up with our camera. Because it's very hard to see the character that we have. Oh, that was because I put the far... Okay, now it should be twice as big. I don't actually really care much about the far. That's nicer. So now you can really see a good section of our map. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, okay. That will be a little bit more difficult, I think. Thing that I'm thinking about is making it. I don't think this will make any difference right now. But I'm thinking about making it transparent where there's no light. Then again, we have these wall sections that will stay black. So I am currently trying to make a little dungeon crawler, and we just got all the movement logic working. So we can move our characters around. Each character has a fixed number of moves per turn that it can do. Once it's made all its moves, the other character's turn happens. And I just made a little mini map here in the top right corner. So that we can see where we are on the map. So yeah. We have all our movement mechanics going. So now the next step for our game is that whenever our character enters a new room, I definitely want the transitions to be nicer. I don't like that we just flip to the other character. Now, obviously, if you would be playing this for real, you'd probably not have your characters just move to completely opposite sections of the map. The other thing that we need to do is if we don't do our full HP, is that we should have a stop moving thing. Because you should be able to cancel the moves that you make. All right, one thing that I want to do before we stop with these guys. Is that on our character? Animation rig. Okay. You definitely have that always there. Okay, that's cool. Animation. Finished. There we go. Don't need you anymore. Now replace you. Um, hmm. All right, so we have a whole bunch of animations here. Actually, let's see. How does that look like if I now go here? That might be because I haven't reloaded it. Yeah, so that is going to do that. So there's a good chance that I can overwrite my... Why can't I go back to the top? I'm not quite sure what happened there. Anyway. All right. So we got that pass. So we can actually implement that on our player character too. So we'll see if that works. All right. So what I want to do here is I want to say if moving and name. Okay, so the animation that we need to use is walk. Then we're going to go and say, actually, I want to go and create that as well because this is nuts. Unready bar animation player get node. That's the one. That gives us a bit more easy access to our animation player. So if we're still moving and we're currently playing our walk animation, we are going to play our walk animation again. And it also means that when we start walking, we're going to start by doing our walk animation. So that should mean that while we're walking, our character has our little walk animation. Now it keeps doing that, and that's probably because if I look at my animation rig and I look at my animation player, now I changed a whole bunch of these. No, that is not set to looping. Now, there's also a bug in this. I actually need to update the animations that are loaded in, because it's only showing one side of the animation. Let's see. Can we not have the animation debugger, please? Finish mode. Okay, we're not getting our... And I think the reason why is because it's actually connected to that guy. So, let's do it like this. Animation, finish. And we're just gonna say animation finished name. And that means that we now can do this. And the reason that I'm doing that is I think that when you link up signals, it's going to link it up to the actual method on the root node. It's not doing its inheritance. That's my guess anyway. Don't know if it's true. That's my guess. See if we're right. No, it's still doing its animation. Oh, it is set it in cycle. I'm just looking at the wrong animation. Okay. Go back to animation rig, animation player, walk. Okay, that's our real problem. All right. Yep. Now it's working. Okay. All right. Let's just go and get rid of this one. Get back to the same pass. Just want to see whether that was really needed. I don't think it was. All right. Let's see what it does now. All right. So you can see that it only makes one side that moves. It doesn't do the other side. And I think it's just a fault in the animation. But that's a matter of re-importing the animations with updated files, because I remember that K released new ones. So the important bit is that we have our character making a move while he's walking. So yeah, that's already pretty cool. Well, there's tons of games like this. You know, I'm not inventing something brand new here. Just my own little twist on this type of game. All right. Sweet. Alrighty. That's the task done. We can now move our character around. That's probably a good one to start on next time. You know what? Actually, I'm going to move you there. I'm going to add another list, and I said next episode, next stream. There we go. Why did it not do that? Next stream, thank you. Okay, let's move that there. So highlight current character. I think that's a good one to try to do next stream. I think we're gonna not yet go for enemies. I definitely want to start looking at that one. So I think that's going to be the stuff that we're going to do next week. And I'm pretty sure that this list will have to grow quite a bit. You know, it's just a really basic start to sort of remember what things we need to do. Now, obviously, you want to move that up because we have to do our enemies first before we can actually attack some enemies. And then we can start making the enemies do things. Not too worried about traps at this point in time. I do want to do spawn doors. And I'm not sure yet whether I'm going to make that part of my dungeons itself or whether we're going to do something else. But I want to make something that it can optionally put a doorway here that you actually need to open. So if we have a path to the next room, I want to make something that we can say, well, you know what? We're actually going to block the player from entering that new room because there's a door in the way. So that's something that I'm thinking about as well. Now, there are some challenges there, but yeah, I think that is definitely something that we can do something nice with. Alrighty. To do off stream. All right, let's put that one in. Fix tiles. Okay, so that's something that I don't really want to do on stream because that's just boring. I want to go through all my rooms and make sure that the tiles that we have, our navigation tiles, are actually properly set. Because right now we don't. Now the other thing I think here, nicer transition when we change character. That's something that we want to do. Do not set camera when enemy. Actually, that should be pretty easy to do because in our main logic, all we need to do is say if p character is player controlled, only then are we going to reparent our camera to the new character. Done. I want a nicer background for this. It's a nice background. Yeah, that'll work. All right. I got a dungeon game. All right, perfect. So I'm warning that I need to stop my stream. Actually, no. I'm going to create link. I'm going to be posting that on my Discord. For anybody who joins my Discord, they can see my progress on my dungeon games on my Trello board. So I will be doing that when the stream finishes. I think that's actually kind of a neat way to do something nice for that. Yeah, Zahil, it's very possible that next week I'll have forgotten that I've actually got a Trello board. All right. Sweet. No, there is. I think there is someone who has a plugin for a webcam if you're doing stuff in HTML. Currently, the only cameras that are supported in Godot are on iOS, and if you're using ARKit on Android, even though that's currently kind of in the middle of things. There's a lot of people who want to make that work. There is someone looking into it right now to get webcam to work, at least on Windows. There's 1 or 2 PRs on the Godot site that handle it, but nobody's really come up with a really good solution, especially because webcam support is different for every platform, and it's horribly documented on most platforms. So, yeah. So we did that support, core support that you could add cameras, but it's just that the logic to actually use a camera is missing for most. Yeah. So Sahil, right now my Discord is Patreon only. I'm thinking about changing that. I'm not sure yet. Mostly because it's one of those few things that one of those few perks that my patrons get. Oh, my banner sucks on this. For some reason, they made that really... Oh, that's because I scrolled down. Okay. So, yeah, I do have a Patreon. I'm actually thinking about switching over to YouTube memberships for that. But I made it so that for the $3 and $10, you have Discord access. But it's not really growing, and I think most people who have decided to become my patron aren't doing that because I have a Discord channel. They're doing that because they want to support me and what I do. So yeah, I have been thinking about removing that as a Discord perk, or giving everybody access to my Discord, but to just have some sections that are only available to patrons, which already exists actually. So that wouldn't even be too hard to implement. My main problem is that right now there's, a handful of people on my Discord, which makes it really easy to manage. But obviously, if I open it up to anybody, I seriously need to start worrying about moderating and stuff like that. And I'm not quite sure if I have enough time for it. Doesn't YouTube membership take a strong 50% cut? I don't know if they do a 50% cut. If that's true, then I might stick with Patreon. They all do take a cut. Patreon takes a cut as well, but I think it's something like 5 or 10% or something crazily low like that. So I do like Patreon in that respect. It's just that I never really know what to really offer to make it attractive for people to support me on Patreon. Obviously, the whole idea was for everybody who is on my Patreon that at the end of my tutorials, I give a nice list of everybody who is Patreon at that point in time. But because I'm doing mostly streams at this point in time, that's sort of fallen by the wayside a little bit. So there's a part of me that's been wondering, like, okay, how can I do that? How can I do that on streams? I'm thinking about maybe putting a banner up or something that just plays at the beginning of the stream or something like that. Because I do think, people go out of their way to donate me some money every month, which is really cool. It's not much that I earn with it, but it's still, it's enough to buy equipment from time to time for the stream. So, I bought my my Elgato last time with the money that I've earned through Patreon, and I've bought the lights, and I bought the microphone from that sort of thing. Well, actually, the microphone stand. I already had bought my microphone before I started my Patreon. But that's really what I use it for. So yeah, it's one of those things that I'm sort of still going back and forward whether it really makes sense to keep my Discord patron only, or whether it's one of those things that I should really open up to the community, or find some other way to at least make sure that only viewers or regulars get on the Discord. Because I just don't have time to moderate it. That's really the whole thing. So it's really nice right now that we have we have a close group of people who actually donate money to me. That's really a nice, it makes sure you don't get just strangers who are out to just troll you. That's bound to happen if I open it up to anybody who watches my YouTube channel. Is eventually we're gonna get some people on there who are gonna troll the hell out of people, because unfortunately you've got idiots like that online. So and who knows, maybe if that happens, then it's time to really start thinking about, I really need to update this this text one of these days. Yeah, then I really need to start thinking about, okay, can I find some people who want to moderate for me or things like that? I don't know. Bye, David. Have a good day at work. I'm actually gonna start putting an end to the stream anyway. It is past midnight for me. We are at 20 past 12. I have to wake up at 7 in the morning. So, but I think it was a good stream. I think we made some really good progress. We can move our character around. We have our turn mechanism working, so our characters nicely take turns. Now, obviously, I think we need to do much more in the interface around what do you mean with idiots? Well, simply, there's a lot of people on the internet who are unfortunately very rude and not nice, and you have to deal with that. And I'd like to keep them out of my Patreon. So yeah. Actually, that's a good one to also put on to here. Is show stats of current selected character. So obviously, whichever character is current, we should show some stuff on screen, like a health bar, and how many points that we have left for this turn. So how many action points for moving. I actually think I need to change the action point names, because action points usually refer to actually making attacks, and these are actually move points. I need to think about that one. So yeah, I think we made some really good progress tonight, and I think that it's coming along really, really nicely. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you all for watching. I hope it was enjoyable. I hope it was interesting. I hope you guys learned something from this. Yeah, I think it was very successful and worthwhile. So I'm pretty happy with what we accomplished. I hope I will see everybody again next Friday. Now that I've got the movement down, because that was really what I was waiting for, I'm going to find some time out of this week or next week to put a condensed video of the generation of the dungeon logic online. So I'm going to look at the first 2 or 3 streams that we've done, where we build all the procedural level generation. And I think I'm going to put that in like a review format. So I'm not going to be writing the code again and showing on tutorial how to write the code. Instead, I'm going to be explaining the technique and then showing the code and saying, this is how it works. This is how you implement it. So it's going to be a different format from my normal tutorials. But I think it works way better when we're looking at something like this. And yeah. That's the plan anyway. So I hope to find time for that, because that's going to have to happen in the weekend. So we'll see how much time I have this weekend, or if I need some time next weekend to do that. But now that we've got the movement, I can actually turn it into a nice little video, because we need to be able to move around the map to show what's happening. All right. Thank you all. And I hope you guys tune in again next week. So see you then. Till then, bye-bye.